Well, before he shot his way into the presidency as the 22nd ruler of Liberia, Charles MacArthur Taylor started his career in public service when he was appointed to the position of Director General of the General Services Agency, that's the GSA, by the administration of the dictator Samuel Doe in 1980. In 1989, he launched rebellion in Liberia. In 1991, Revolutionary United Front, REF, rebellion began in Sierra Leone. In 1997, he was elected president after a 1995 peace deal. In 1999, rebels took against Taylor. June 2003, an arrest warrant was issued. 4 months later, he steps down and goes into exile in Nigeria. He was arrested after a failed bid to escape, then sent to Sierra Leone in March 2006. June of the next year, his trial began, hosted in The Hague for security reasons. April 2012, he was convicted and sentenced to 50 years in prison. Well, October 2013, he was transferred to British custody and began serving his sentence. February 2017, reports filtered in that he had been making phone calls from prison to provide guidance to the National Patriotic Party and threatening some of his enemies. Well, let's quickly talk to our guest who is in the studio, Dr. Paul Matei. I hope I got that right, former physician to Samuel Doe. He joins us on Network Africa. A pleasure to have you come on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's been 5 years since Charles Taylor was sentenced to prison. Do you think the people of Liberia miss him?
Yes, they do miss him because when he was in power, he was popular. So in this election, I think he's going to play an important role, going by the fact that an ex-wife is now pairing off with a running mate.
And to think that, is there a relationship between both of them, do you think? Because, you know, our last guest said, you know, we should look at her in the, you know, different merits.
Relationship with the former wife?
Yes.
I wouldn't say there's a relationship with the former wife because once they are divorced, I think there's a separation. But the fact remains that Charles Taylor himself is loved, even though he had his calamities, but he still remembered in Liberia. He did a lot for them.
Let's take a look talk a little bit about the candidates for the election. Former football star George Weah running for the presidential ballot for the third time and choosing ex-warlord Charles Taylor as well. What do you make of that choice?
Well, you see, Weah, as a footballer, made a lot of waves during his time. And Liberia loved him for that, for the fame that he brought to them. The fact that he's running for the third time shows that there's some interest in Charles Weah, and he's determined to lead that country, being an indigent, you know, and I think Liberians will want to have a change in leadership.
And that's with the two of them?
Well, pairing. That's with that pairing with,
yes,
with the...
George Weah and his former ex-wife.
Yes, yes.
We know also that George Weah has been a critic of Charles Taylor, now aligning with him via his ex-wife, do you think?
Well, he might not be directly towing the same line with Charles Taylor now that the ex-wife is with him.
Right.
Well, in the past they did have some differences, but as time went on, I want to believe that Liberians who really towed the line of Weah still are interested in Weah, and I won't be surprised that if it comes out as one of the successful ones in Liberia, because he's still well recognized and he's brought fame to Liberia, and they want somebody like that to lead them. Interesting,
we hear that Taylor supporters in Gibraltar say they would roll out the drums for the former warlord if he returns. What do you make of this?
Again, I won't be surprised because of the love they have for Charles Taylor. It's a possibility.
Okay, well, I was going to ask the final question, and that with regards to the main opposition, George Weah, and of course Ms. Howard Taylor being considered to be vice president. Joseph Boakai is also a main contender for the government house. What are the chances, in your opinion, with regards to these main challenges and, of course, the rest?
Well, in my own reasoning, Boakai had been there for some time, and Liberians will want to have a change. putting somebody who's fresh to continue with the governance of Liberia.
Even though we know there's not a lot you can do as vice president.
Yes, even though in his position as vice president, he stands a chance of using his powers or whatever to remain there. But I don't think Liberians will be in a position to do that kind of favor to him, because he and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had served the country for some time, so they want a change.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Paul Mete, former physician to Samuel Doe, for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much.
Well, gunmen have opened fire at a university in Kenya, killing 2 female staff members and wounding several others, including students. A student who did not want to be named said she and other students fled their vehicle when the gunmen opened fire at the Technical University of Mombasa campus in the coastal Kwale County. A driver and 2 policemen were among the injured, but the motive for the attack remains unclear. And 2 paramedics have been robbed at gunpoint in Alexandra, a residential area north of South Africa's main city, Johannesburg, while helping a patient. According to Johannesburg's emergency services spokesman, Robert Mladuzi, they were attacked by 2 armed men who forced them to stop the vehicle before stealing their wallets and mobile phones in an incident that happened in the early hours of today. This incident follows the decision last month to supply emergency service staff with police escorts when visiting crime hotspots in Johannesburg. And Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe has appointed a cybersecurity minister, Patrick Chinamasa, in addition to his cabinet today in Harare. Mr. Chinamasa, a lawyer, will be responsible for introducing a cyber crimes bill to criminalize the posting of false information on the internet. Mugabe's decision to appoint a Minister of Cybersecurity and Threats Detection coincides with the growth of social media and internet-based media groups. Zimbabwe's media laws are set to be repressive, and the government has been struggling to regulate them because some of the media outlets are not based in the country. Mr. Mugabe and his family have accused the social media of spreading fake news.